Now, for the second day in a row, Albanese has refused to condemn his close friend, Daniel Andrews, for attending the military parade alongside Russian, North Korean and Iranian dictators. Albanese and Andrews are former flatmates. They meal together regularly and they're from the same socialist left faction. Albanese even raved about his friendship with Dan Andrews in an interview earlier this year.
Daniel Andrews is a friend of mine, and he's been a friend of mine for a long period of time. We shared shared a flat for a little while in Canberra when he was a staffer.
And Albanese even reportedly asked Andrews for help in preparing for live TV debates against Peter Dutton before the last election. And so this partly explains why he's refused to criticise Andrews' disgraceful decision to join the world's worst dictators this week.
This month, the Prime Minister expelled the Iranian ambassador, an action the coalition has strongly supported. But what message does it send when the Prime Minister of this country doesn't have the spine to condemn his former flatmate, Daniel Andrews, for posing in family photos with the Iranian president, a leader whose regime has actively orchestrated attacks on Australian soil?
They are delulu, Mr Speaker.
They are delulu. He's not even using English. Once again, Albanese insults Australians by not taking this seriously. And I'm pleased to say I spoke to the opposition leader Sussan Ley about this a little earlier this evening. Sussan Ley, thank you very much for your time. Now, you put pressure on the Prime Minister. You put pressure on the Prime Minister today over his refusal to condemn Daniel Andrews for attending a meeting of dictators. Why do you think the Prime Minister has been so reluctant to publicly criticise this?
It's quite bewildering, Sharri. Labor leaders across Australia have condemned Daniel Andrews appearing in the same family photo with dictators, despots, war criminals, only feet away from Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un. And it beggars belief that our own Prime Minister cannot utterly condemn this behaviour. There's actually no excuse. So we did ask him, and these were serious questions. He treated the questions as if they were trivial and irrelevant, which is how he approaches question time more broadly. But I know from the front pages of today's press that this has really angered Australians. And they know the closeness that Daniel Andrews has with Anthony Albanese. They were flatmates. They spent time in the lead up to the campaign. They worked together closely. They're very good friends. He needs to be strong. He needs to show leadership. Today, he did not. You just mentioned there his obfuscation during question time, and I have noticed he's been particularly evasive. He's not dealing in any of the issues. Do you think this is even more exaggerated with you as the opposition leader? Do you think he is being disrespectful in not engaging in these very serious issues of national security, whether it's ISIS brides or Daniel Andrews? That's exactly how he is. And as to the reasons, I'm not sure. He shouldn't show the hubris that I think we all see in question time, because these are questions that we ask for Australians with respect to the national interest, and these issues are incredibly important. And to just brush them away as he does, I think says more about him and his approach than it does about anything else in that forum. And you mentioned ISIS brides, and that was another moment today where he just shook his head and sort of muttered under his breath and said seriously, as if how could we ask the question? I mean, really? I mentioned that you had broken the story last night, Sharri, that the New South Wales Police actually contradicted his earlier statement in question time today, where he said, this simply isn't happening, and they said, well, yes, it is, and there are already meetings arranged between the New South Wales Police and the AFP, which is exactly as it should be. Now, he knows what this question is about. He knows that we simply seek answers, and he's refusing to give any.
So he changed his tune yesterday. He said the story was inaccurate. Today he said the federal government was not providing assistance. But Is this believable? Passports, travel documentation, even citizenship, birth certificates for the children who've been born in Syria. So there has to be assistance here. And the New South Wales government, as you say, has confirmed that as well. So again, do you think he's not being entirely upfront?
He's not being truthful, and he's borderline misleading the parliament, because if you know what a question is about and you choose to be tricky, then that's misleading and it's not fitting of a Prime Minister. The point is that these returnees, if they arrive, when they arrive, need to be met by our security agencies. Remember, they left Australia to join a death cult. Willingly, they committed a crime by leaving our shores to join with a cult that has at its heart the destruction of Australian values and Australia's way of life. If they're returning, then are they a security risk? These questions need to be asked. And if so, will they be monitored? So that is something that Australian agencies, repatriation or otherwise, have to do. How long will they be monitored for? Will they need some sort of readjustment back into the community? What does that really mean? How much will it actually cost? And what are the prospects for success? And all of these questions are vital, important, and ones that we deserved answers to today. And I know that hardworking journalists around the country will be probing these matters because they are in the national interest.
Well, you have more faith in the press gallery than I do. Tony Abbott on Sky News earlier this evening said that this cohort should not be allowed back in Australia. I'll just play you what he had to say.
Obviously, these people who left Australia to join Islamic State, a gruesome, barbarous terrorist group, have effectively rejected our country, its values and our citizenship, and I don't believe they have any moral right to come back.
Sussan, do you agree with Mr Abbott that the ISIS brides should not be allowed into Australia?
Yes, I do. They did make a deliberate choice to leave our shores to join a death cult. And I remember the elevated security risk at that time, and so much that added to our feelings in this country of this awful organisation and what it sought to achieve, its destruction of Western values and Western civilisation. Now, I can't believe that these individuals are coming back and want to resettle in Australian society and just pick up life as normal Australian citizens. It's a privilege, not a right, to come here. And you have to believe in what our Australian values are, and our Judeo-Christian values in this country are completely and diametrically opposed to the values, if you can even call them that, of the death cult that is Islamic State. So this is important. This matters. And we don't support what we have been told. We need the full facts, Prime Minister, and we need the questions answered.
So there you go. You're tonight saying they should not be allowed in the country, this cohort of ISIS brides. Sussan Ley, just on a final point, there's been a lot of criticism of the coalition under your leadership that we're now many months on from the election and there's no firm energy policy, immigration policy, NDIS policy, I mean, you name it, in any portfolio. And while you have said that a review needs to take place, we've even seen criticism from former Prime Minister John Howard that we can't wait a year for an energy policy. What's your response to that?
We're just over 3 months in, and I'm happy to report that there's an enormous amount of policy work being done, Sharri. And I understand that we have in our party room, and this is a terrific thing, some incredible talent. I'm harnessing all of that through various policy forums. We had an energy policy meeting today. About 30 members and senators attended. There were presentations, there were experts, there was a lot of analysis, and there was a real buzz in the room, I'm told, that is all about how we develop an energy policy that is underpinned by two things, that we have a stable, reliable grid that delivers affordable energy and that we play our part in reducing emissions. Meanwhile, as I say to my team every day, it's important we hold the government to account. There's a trifecta of energy failures from this government. Costs are going up, reliability is going down, emissions are flatlining. That is a big fail, and it threatens our manufacturing industries in this country.
And it's certainly frustrating industry, farmers, many in the community. So will you bring forward your policies? Will we see one by the end of the year?
We'll see policies throughout this term of opposition. They'll be clearly articulated, and there'll be
on energy,
a lot of involvement, as I said. Absolutely, absolutely.
An energy
I'm not going to
policy.
give a date. I think we do. I do think we have to take the time to get this right. So I'm not going to sort of put a date in place, but we know that with this government's energy failures, our opportunities right here, right now, including developing our own policy, as we are doing, is to really highlight Labor's failures. Because every which way you turn, you see someone whose energy bills are making their small business, their manufacturing business, their industry completely unaffordable. And we have to call that out, and we will call that out, and we'll continue to do that.
All right, Sussan Ley, thank you very much for coming on the program. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.